Womanjika everyone, Womanjika meaning welcome. My name is Auntie Julianne and I'm an out of the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people, and in recognition of doing my welcome to country, I'd like to pay my respects to my elders past, present, future and any elders that were here today, and I would also like to welcome you all here today. The Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung tribe consists of three families, the Nevins, the Terricks and the Wandans, and I'm part of the Nevin family. The three families all descend from one woman called Annie Barratt, which makes us one big family. Annie Barratt is the youngest sister of William Barratt, a pioneer for Aboriginal people in the 19th century, fighting for equality and land rights. I'm here today to welcome you all to the land of my ancestors. We call the land within our tribal boundaries our country. The Kulin Nation, Kulin meaning man, is made up of 5 groups. They are the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, Boonwurrung, Tanarong, Watharong and Dja-dja-wurrung. And to give you an outline of the Wurundjeri country and the area we cover, Wurundjeri country extends from north to the Great Dividing Range, east to Mount Baw Baw, south to the Moolalic Creek and west to the Werribee River. We cover a diverse range of land from the mountains to the beach and everything in between. Many thousands of years ago, if an Aboriginal person from another tribe wanted to cross our boundary, they would have to sit at the boundary and wait for the Narragator, which is the headman, or an elder to come past to give permission to cross. Traditional Aboriginal culture was highly territorial, and visitors risked a violent reprisal for crossing a tribal or clan boundary without this permission, and this is how a welcome to country originated in our culture. Traditionally, being welcomed onto country meant you respected Bunjil's law. Bunjil, the wedge-tailed eagle, is our creator, and Wah the crow is our protector. And as long as you looked after the country, you had access to our waterways and our land resources. And when you enter our country, we ask that you respect our resources, our fauna, flora and water, as they are very special to us. And when you are ready to leave, we ask that you leave it the way you found it.
Welcome everyone to the Council meeting on the 10th of December 2024, which I now declare open at 6:35pm. I'd like to warmly welcome members of the public in the gallery who have joined us tonight, as well as those watching online at home. As well as being live streamed, the video recording of this meeting may be recorded, so attendees in the gallery are advised that your presence may be recorded. I also ask that mobile phones be switched to silent during the meeting. And a reminder as well to the public in the gallery that under Governance Rule 75.1, personal video and audio recording is not allowed. On behalf of Moonee Valley City Council, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their spirits, ancestors, elders and community members, and extend that respect to others who may be with us. Item 2 is apologies and leave of absence. However, we have all councillors here tonight. Are there any leaves of absence? Item 3 is confirmation of minutes. Councillors, can I please have a mover and seconder that the minutes from the council meeting held on Tuesday the 27th of August 2024 be confirmed? Moved Councillor Sypek, seconded Councillor Bedio. Councillor Sypek, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Bedio, would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 4 is declarations of conflict of interest. Does any council wish to flag a conflict of interest on any item on the agenda? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest in item 9.14, as I was a good friend of Kathy Bouquet.
Thank you. Are there any others? If not, councillors, I would like to move on to urgent business item 11. Can I please have a mover and seconder that the order of business be changed to consider a matter under agenda item 11, urgent business, before item 5, presentations? It's moved Councillor Hodgson, seconded Councillor Sharp. Councillor Hodgson, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Sharp? No. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Bedio.
Just a point of clarification, Mayor, as to why we're straying from the norm, which is urgent business being on item 11.
CEO, do you feel in a position to respond?
I think it's up to council by resolution can move. Our governance rules allows council by resolution move the sequence of the agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And I'd add...
sorry, that didn't answer my point of clarification, because generally item 11 is item 11. Is there a particular reason why today we're moving item 11 to item 4?
Councillor Bedio, you're aware of what will be moved. However, it is confidential up until it is moved. Thank you. Moved Councillor Hodgson, seconded Councillor Sharp. Both have waived their speaking rights. Councillor Bedio has spoken. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Tyson. All those against? There's Councillor Bedio, Byrne and Sypek. I declare that carried. Councillors, do we have a motion of an urgent item? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. The motion reads that Council resolves that the Arbiter's determination and statement of reasons for decision of the internal arbitration of Councillor Isa and Councillor Byrne in brackets 1AP 2024-33 in brackets be considered urgent in compliance with Council's Governance Rule 25.2.
Thank you. I might just get you to read out the bracketed term again, if that's right.
Bracket I or 1? I think it's actually might be IAP. Sorry. IAP 2024-33 in brackets.
Thank you. That's moved Councillor Sharp. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Sharp, would you like to speak to the motion as to why it be considered as urgent business?
Thank you, Mayor. The item is considered urgent as the Councillor Conduct Officer only received the Arbiter's determination and statement of reasons after the distribution of tonight's council meeting agenda, and it cannot be deferred until the next council meeting. Section 147 in brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 2020 requires that A copy of the Arbiter's decision and statement of reasons must be tabled at the next council meeting after the council receives the copy of the Arbiter's decision and statement of reasons and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. It is also urgent because it cannot be deferred to the next council meeting on 23rd of September 2024, at which the only agenda item for council to consider is the adoption of the 2023-24 annual report during the election period. Furthermore, this item cannot be addressed through an operational service request process and therefore will need to be resolved tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Hodgson? No? Would any other councillor like to speak as to why this be considered urgent? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Councillor Sharp, I'll now ask you to move to 11.1, the Arbiter's determination and statement of reasons for decision of the internal arbitration of Councillor Isa and Councillor Byrne, IAP 2024-33. I'll ask you to move your urgent business motion.
Thank you, Mayor. The urgent business motion reads that Council resolves to receive and note the Arbiter's determination and statement of reasons for decision of the internal arbitration of Councillor Isa and Councillor Byrne in brackets IAP 2024-33 in brackets in accordance with section 147 in brackets number 4 of the Local Government Act 2020 and note that it will be published on the council website.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillors, I'll note that this is a statutory requirement that this be tabled and no debate is required. I'll ask whether Councillor Sharp would like to say any words.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Hodgson. Any other councillor? Councillor Bedio.
I just want to have on record that I think it's disappointing that the agenda has been changed in this instance, and I think it speaks for itself.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? As there's been dissent, I'll ask Councillor Sharp whether she would like a right of reply.
No, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Adams, Councillor Byrne, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Sharp, Councillor Sipek, Councillor Tyson. All those against? Councillor Bedio. Now that that motion is carried, I will ask that Ms Samantha Byrne, if she would like to make an apology. I'll suspend standing orders to allow that.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, Councillor Isa and councillors, I wish to address the findings and decisions made in relation to the allegations against me. First and foremost, I accept the decision of the Arbiter and the findings that have been made. I recognise that my conduct during the council meeting on the 25th of June 2024 was not in line with the standards expected of a councillor. I apologise to my fellow councillors for distress and frustration that my actions caused. I want to address the use of particular words which I will not repeat. It was never my intention to cause harm, and I apologise for offence that was caused.
Thank you, Ms Byrne. I'll now ask you to leave the council chamber and return any council property that you have for the Arbiter's decision of the suspension. Thank you. Item 5, councillors, is presentations. Firstly, do we have any presentations?
I've got a presentation, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the last council meeting for this council term, and I have decided not to recontest the election this October. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to address council and staff and the community tonight. I remember this time 4 years ago being one of the bright-eyed, hopeful candidates that were watching the last council meeting and watching my friend and mentor, Councillor Nicole Marshall, deliver a speech like this. And one of the comments that she made was that, you know, she, for 8 years, in her case, had sat every Tuesday night and had dinner with, this group of councillors or her former colleagues, and just what a impact and how significant it is to be involved in a council. And for me, those words ring true tonight when I say, sit down with you all for my final Tuesday dinner with you. I want to thank former councillors Nicole Marshall and Jim Cusack, who were Moonee ward councillors at the time and role models for me and encouraged me to run 4 years ago. And when I was elected, were mentors and friends through my time on council. I've always had a great respect for people who put up their hands to lead and represent the community, and having stood among those ranks for this 4 years, that has not changed. We all come to council for different reasons, and I'm really grateful for my colleagues that have worked alongside me to make Moonee Valley a stronger, fairer and more equitable community. I've strived for outcomes that support families, older community members, multilingual and multicultural communities and young people within Moonee Valley. I'm proud that we continue to deliver essential services of aged care, childcare, and thanks to the partnership with the state government, we've seen the biggest investment in kindergarten in our municipality for many decades, possibly ever, but I haven't fact-checked that one. We've taken real steps towards achieving our target of net zero emissions, not just for council's emissions, but also helping our community to move towards that goal with our climate emission reduction reserve. And I joined council wanting to lead an organisation that looked to its community to take direction and harness the ideas and energy for a better future. I'm the most proud that we have taken big leaps forward in this space with our community engagement policy and strategy. We've had community advisory panels, a review of our customer service and our communication strategies that lift our eyes up and open us to partnerships with the community. I've had to make a difficult personal decision not to stand again, and I simply couldn't strike the right balance to give this job the energy and attention that it and our residents deserve. I don't make this decision because the work is done. I know that's far from it. Our community faces new challenges all the time. There's much more to do on climate action. We're in a cost of living crisis and a housing crisis. It's imperative that we have a council that strongly advocates for outcomes that ensure access to affordable housing and a sustainable future for our neighbourhoods. I haven't learned everything that this role can teach a person, but I've learned a hell of a lot, and I'm much richer for the lessons that the job has taught me and for the lessons that the community has given me as well. It can be a bit of a school of hard knocks at times. The job can expose who you really are and where your values lie when it comes down to a vote and your decisions are being live streamed to the community. I've always tried to stay true to the values that got me here and the people who chose me to represent them, and hopefully you think that I've done okay. I want to thank my family, my husband Kieran and my children Joe and Alice, my little cheerleading team, all my friends, the Labor members and supporters who put their faith in me and gave me this opportunity. It's hard to gauge the impact that you have sometimes and whether people are really noticing the work that we put in the background. There are a dozen or so regular watchers of the live stream that I know, we have a captive audience, but I've had a number of people reach out to me since reading my quote in the Valley View, many who I've not met in person, but have reached out to thank me, and those messages of thanks mean the world. I want to thank our CEO Helen and our executive leadership team, Ben, Sanjib, Brett, Sharon and Tao, and our former executive leadership team, Nicole and Maria. Our councillor support office, Sharon and Ian. As a public servant myself, I know that sometimes the decisions we make as a council might be perplexing. But I thank you for your expertise and your goodwill, your respect and good humour and guidance for us. And I'm so grateful and proud for everything that we've achieved together. The community deserves faithful representation, honesty and integrity, strategic leadership and respect for diversity. I want to wish good luck to my colleagues who are recontesting and to all candidates who have made the decision to put your hand up. After tonight, I won't have the chance to be part of final decision making for this community, but I can't say that I'm losing anything because of all the things that I've gained. There are countless ways that people can serve the community, and this role has taught me exactly that. I've met so many people who are out there making a difference that have inspired me. From next month, I'll be one of them, and I can't wait to contribute in many new ways.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. I know that I speak on behalf of both councillors and officers that you are the best among us, and it's something that I've said to everyone that will listen, and I think everyone will agree that you are the best among us. You've been a dear friend to me, a dear friend to everyone in this chamber, and you've always been someone who's fair, someone who can bridge the gap, and you'll be a great loss to council. I know that I've tried to talk you out of it many times, as many of us have, but absolutely respect your decision and look forward to continuing a great friendship with you. So thank you. I'll now I'll suspend standing orders to go through our yearly tradition, where I'll firstly thank the Deputy Mayor for the last year that we've served together. It's been great working together with you, Councillor Sharp. I have found you always to be constructive and sometimes incredibly fiery, but in the best way. Someone who has worked very well in this council, consensus building, and I've really appreciated your advice for your over 15 years service to our community, and Mayor Emeritus as well. So thank you. And on behalf of council, I'll ask you to join me at the front, and I'll present you a plaque and flowers. So thank you.
Mayor, since you are suspending the standing order, may I please also say something?
Thank you, CEO. Go ahead.
I also would like to thank Mayor and councillors for the past 4 years. Together, council has achieved a lot during this council term, just to name a few, delivering over $200 million worth of capital works over this term, achieved 100% delivery of council plan initiatives for last financial year, securing $10.8 million private equity investment into Riverside Golf and Sports Precinct, and reducing our borrowing provision by $14.9 million. All of these were done with responsible financial management, and none of this were possible with the dedication and strong leadership of this council. Sincerely thank Mayor Tyson for your very strong leadership and the council's dedication and commitment to the Moonee Valley community. Thank you to all councillors, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. And before I resume standing orders, I will just say a few words generally to our colleagues. I'll hand over to the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Sharp, to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. I nearly got missed then, but we just sped the process up because I actually just handed our Mayor the gavel, which is a tradition that happens at the end of the term, where the Mayor receives the gavel to commemorate the year that's been. So, Mayor Tyson, I can honestly say it has been an absolute honour to be deputy to you this year. I think we've achieved a lot. You are the most rational mayor I've probably known in my time. You listen, you think, and you're a great communicator, and you just have a way about you that makes I think everybody feel comfortable, and you're, like I said, you're very easy to talk to, approachable, and I think that's a real asset for you, to be honest. And I thank you very much for the work that you've done with us as a councillor group, because we've certainly had some hurdles over the last year, and I don't think we would have gotten through it without the strong leadership that you possess. And, you know, I can't thank you enough for that. You've guided us as a group, and I think the fact that you are the only mayor that's been elected concurrently 2 years in a row is a testament to your leadership skills. Yeah, I can't thank you enough, and it really has been an honour to serve under you and to, be a friend of yours. It's been great, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. I think all councillors know how I struggle to receive praise, so thank you. I will speak generally as well just about some of the work that we've done, because it really has been an extraordinary year on council, and I think none of us would say that it's been smooth sailing, but we have achieved so much. As Councillor Hodgson touched on, we have had record investment in our early years. We've upgraded are in the process of upgrading several of our libraries. Really, everything's happening at council at the moment. I'd like to thank every councillor for their work over the year. We've all gone through a lot, but I fundamentally believe that everyone is here for the right reasons and wants to do the best by our community. I think all of us bring something unique and different to council, and that's why our communities have elected us, and I'm extremely proud of all of the different projects and passions that each councillor has and has brought to the team. As well, a deep friendship with many councillors that I will have for the rest of my life. And so I want to thank everyone for everything that they've done. And some highlights over the last few years has been the opening of our Jering Flemington Hub, the rollout of our Igniting Creativity in Moonee Valley strategy, which places arts and culture at the forefront of what we do. The rebuilding of the East Keel Leisure Centre. As I said, the renewing of our Flemington and Ascot Vale libraries, as well working with as much as we don't want to remember it anymore, working with our communities and working through the pandemic. As well, the flood recovery in 2022, our continued advocacy for the Melbourne Airport rail line and a train station for our community, the return of the Moonee Valley Festival to Queen's Park, which I acknowledge Councillor Sypek brought as well. The rollout of our FOGO collection program through the green bin, and our 5 kinders getting rebuilt, which is absolutely probably one of the largest capital projects that Moonee Valley has seen, and will change lives in terms of the capacity that it builds for our youngest Moonee Valley residents. These are a testament to the dedication and spirit of council and councillors, but I just wanted to touch on our staff as well, starting with our CEO, who has become a dear friend for me. I know that we've called each other for advice and different thoughts at all hours of the day, weekend and the like, but I know that our relationship is stronger than ever. I think we've been the absolute dynamic duo at council, you working with our public servants and myself with our politicians. I think we can achieve anything, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. I'd like to thank our ELT as well as our acting ELT members and managers. It's been a delight to see your different strengths in your fields. As well, there's often wisdom that I've taken from you and learnt a lot including Director of Enabling Services, who is the greatest mentor to everyone and anyone, even if they didn't ask for it. So I'd like to as well just acknowledge any of our staff that have joined us in the chamber or online. It's been a pleasure, particularly since becoming mayor in 2022, to get to know you all and the great work that you do and the passion that you have for our community, because I think something that a lot of people sometimes forget that probably 30-40% of our staff live in Moonee Valley, and they are passionate about the work that they do, whether it be from libraries to early childhood, aged care, parks and gardens, our planning enforcement, our planning teams, waste teams, our community support, economic development. I could go on all day, and I literally have a list here that I could go on for a long time, but I won't. But I know that I've had interactions with every part and every staff member in a team of this council to some degree, and it's been an absolute honour knowing you and knowing the work that you do for our community. So thank you. And I'll finally touch on, because I know that they absolutely won't want me to name them, I'd like to touch on thanking Sharon Keppel and Yuan. They are the, if the CEO and I are the dynamic duo of council, they are the dynamic duo of supporting the entire organisation. There is no councillor and probably no staff member that hasn't been helped by those two across the last few years. And you carry this organisation, you carry me, and you carry the councillors and every former mayor. So I thank you so much for your service to this council. Thank you.
On behalf of the Moonee Valley workforce, really want to thank Mayor Tyson. You may be one of the youngest mayor in Australia, but your maturity and exemplary leadership, not many can match. Thank you.
Thank you. Enough of that. Now I'll resume standing orders. Are there any other presentations? All right. The next item on the agenda is petitions and joint letters. Are there any petitions or joint letters? No. Item 7 is public question time. We've got one tonight from Carolyn Keating, who hasn't joined us in the gallery. Caroline's question is opportunities for active transport around Moonee Valley and to and from Moonee Valley are frequently limited by bike lanes that are obstructed by cars parking outside the parking bays and edging into bike lanes. As an example, Kent Road and Ascot Vale. Or the bike lane only being available during clearway times for 2 hours during peak commute. Example, Mount Alexander Road. How can and does the council support active transport infrastructure that exists for us, being clear, safe and available for residents to use at all times? What more can be done to support the use of active transport safely? I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thank you, Caroline. Through the Mayor, Council's overarching MV 2040 strategy is guided by a vision of a healthy city and recognises the importance of active transport, such as walking and cycling, in achieving this vision. Accordingly, Council has completed approximately 2 km of shared path and bicycle improvement works over the past 2 years to the value of $1.2 million. These projects are aimed to improve safety and connectivity on our bicycle network. Council is also currently completing many active travel projects, including major safety upgrades on our shared path network. Council continues to advocate to the state government to install new and upgraded cyclist facilities on arterial roads like Racecourse Road and Mount Alexander Road. We encourage residents to report any vehicles parking in bicycle lanes on the local road network to Council for investigation and enforcement. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and thank you, Caroline, for your question. Item 8 is reports from delegates. Councillors, do we have any reports as delegates? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. On Friday, the 6th, just gone, of September, I attended the Farnham Street Neighbourhood Learning Centre committee meeting as delegate, and the discussion there, as for many community organisations and organisations generally at this time, is on the final end of year financial reporting and preparations for AGM, because AGM season hits next month. The organisation also, we discussed the strategic plan, which is looking really great, and with some final changes, Farnham Street's looking good to endorse their 5-year strategy that will guide them through what will be a challenging and rewarding experience. They obviously do a lot for the community. I've been very proud to be a delegate on their committee for this 4 years of council term, and I wish them all the best in all of their future.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Are there any others? If not, we move on to reports, and item 9.1 is 23 Tilber Street, Aberfeldy, parentheses lots 11 and 12 on PS 018814, construction of 3 dwellings. And councillors, the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I have an alternative motion.
Thank you. What is that?
The council resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit in relation to planning permit application number MV-717-2023 at 23 Tilber Street, Aberfeldy, in brackets lots 11 and 12 on PS 018814, end of brackets, for the construction of 3 dwellings subject to the following grounds. 1. The proposed building height, scale and massing fails to meet the objectives and strategies of clause 15.01-1S urban design, 15.01-1L urban design, 15.01-2S building design and 15.01-5S neighbourhood character of the Moonee Valley planning scheme, and would result in a building design and siting outcome that fails to positively contribute to the local context and enhance the public realm, and will present a visually dominant built form to the streetscapes. Point 2, the overall scale and design of the development does not appropriately respond to the character of the surrounding area. Point 3, the proposal fails to satisfy the following standards contained within clause 55, in brackets 2 or more dwellings on a lot, of the Moonee Valley planning scheme, and does not achieve an acceptable outcome in terms of the following objectives. A, clause 55.03-1 street setback. B, clause 55.03-2 building height. C, clause 55.03-3 site coverage. D, clause 55.03-4 permeability and stormwater management. E, clause 55.03-8 landscaping. F, clause 55.03-9 access. G, clause 55.04-1 side and rear setbacks. And H, clause 55.04-2 walls on boundary.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Is there a seconder? Councillor Adams. Councillor Sharp, I'll give you a moment to take a sip of water after the lengthy motion, but when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. So this motion I've put forward is a refusal for this application at 23 Tilber Street. There's a number of reasons why I've moved this motion, as I do have a lot of concerns in regards to how this application will actually fit into the streetscape. I will note on the outset that it is a 370 square metre block, and the proposal is for 3 dwellings, each dwelling being 4 stories high on a 370 square metre block. So it is a tiny parcel of land that this application seeks to fit 3 4-storey dwellings on. For me, it's just a complete overdevelopment of the site. Aside from that, 4 stories is not seen anywhere near this address in Aberfeldy. I note that the zoning on this site is a mixed-use zone because it is the old, it's adjacent and part of the old Ryan's bus depot on Tilber Street and on the corner of Brunel and Tilber. And it is right next door to the shop fronts that sit on Tilber Street. And the explanation given to us councillors and the residents at the consultation meeting was that because it was in a mixed-use zone, the height limit was adequate, and complementary to the zone, but I don't accept that rationale at all. Yes, it might be in a mixed-use zone, but the rest of the shops on Tilba Street there are single story. There's a couple of double story at the far end of that block of shops. And it is a tiny parcel of land, and you can see from the motion that I read out that the number of clauses that aren't complied with in this application is quite extensive. You've got street setback, building height, site coverage, permeability, landscaping, access, side and rear setbacks, and walls on boundaries. For me, it's not in keeping with the neighbourhood at all. And aside from that, you're looking at car parking spots being taken up that are there available for use currently. And I know car parking isn't an actual objection as such to planning applications, but this is a residential neighbourhood. Yes, there's a small group of shops, a class as neighbourhood shops really, but it is a residential area, and a four-storey development of this scale and magnitude on such a small block is not in keeping at all with the neighbourhood of Aberfeldy. Aside from that, if anybody has actually seen what or the design of these, the application looks like, I guess you'd call them townhouses, it is pretty much a sheer flat brick wall of a strange colour that doesn't fit into the landscape at all. And I know design is, you know, what the saying is, it's up to the beholder as to whether it looks good or not. But for me, this development is just not at all in keeping with the neighbourhood character of Aberfeldy and the surrounding context of the streets of Brunel, Tilba and surrounding areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Sharp, for your comments. I totally concur. I'll be supporting this refusal. This is an application where the saying, just because you can, doesn't mean you should, applies for me. As Councillor Sharp has noted, this site is located in a mixed-use zone, but that doesn't mean that neighbourhood character should be ignored. This commercial strip along Tilba Street is a small group of shops, and although the proposal is assessed against the mixed-use zone, this area is very much residential. The development is not consistent with the existing neighbourhood character. The design outcome is less than desirable, to say the least, for this area. Its visual bulk is completely unreasonable and imposing and will dominate the streetscape. It's an inappropriate overdevelopment of the land. The lack in setbacks and the height at 4 stories doesn't help the overbearing scale and bulk, and with other issues such as only 7.5% permeability, lack of landscaping, side and rear setbacks and walls on the boundary, I support this refusal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. I completely agree with my colleagues, Councillor Sharp and Councillor Adams, and I will also be supporting this refusal. This is a massive overdevelopment of the land. As Councillor Sharp alluded to, 370 square metre block, 3 4-bedroom, 4-storey homes. There's absolutely no green space in this development. It is all built form, which is concerning for the people who will be living in these concrete houses with no yard. Traffic and cars are going to be an issue. 4-bedroom homes, that's going to eventually probably house some teenagers who are also going to have cars, as well as the people who live there. Where are they going to park? There's already some issues with speaking to residents around here with traffic congestion and parking. The actual design itself is not within the neighbourhood character of that particular section of Aberfeldy. It's going to overshadow the shop fronts that are there. And yeah, I just am completely against something that is that overdeveloped on such a small block, so I will be supporting the refusal.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.2 is MV/151/2024 at 4 Eddy Street, Moonee Ponds. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. This application is for a residential building in Eddy Street, which is just opposite the Coles car park in the Moonee Ponds Activity Centre. It's for 100% affordable housing, which is, for me, the first time I've seen an application of this type. I think unique, certainly to MPAC, and an unusual and rare opportunity to come across our desks. The building itself is on a quite small block. It offers 25 dwellings that will all be offered as affordable housing. There are some concessions that have been given to the standards of our planning scheme to enable this in a viable way that will offer the applicant the rental yield that they require to be able to build this and give this unique housing stock as an offering. Interestingly, there's probably some ways that the applicant and planning officers would have been able to improve some of the outcomes, particularly around the balcony spaces and things, had it been possible to be flexible on the FAR to the extent that originally the planning scheme proposal sought, which was where affordable housing was going to be a part of the development, that some concession to the mandatory floor area ratio would be possible. Ultimately, that didn't make it into our planning scheme amendment, and as a result, in order to be able to accept this application, rather than make concessions on the floor area ratio, the concessions have had to be built into some of the space areas, for example, slightly smaller balconies than the better designed apartments would require. So there's a mixture of 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom and 3 bedroom apartments in this. There's a concession to have no car parking available. The reasons given for that and the justification, I think, look, if you're going to have any location building that offers no car parking, this is the place to do it. It's obviously not ideal. It's not something we would usually do, but in order to accept this, what I think is a very strong development and that will contribute to, certainly to the availability of housing for low income and particularly targeted at young people in our municipality, in a very well located part of our municipality, to have such a building that's across the road from a supermarket and around the corner from a train station, it's probably the place you want to build a building like that. Having looked at this really closely, and I've been bugging our planning department, and I give them a big pat on the back for working with the applicant to come up with the best outcome possible for this development and for the future residents of this development. I think that every bit of space has been eked out that could possibly be eked out, and I think that accepting this application will contribute greatly to our community. So happy to support. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor O'Neill, a second. Would you like
Excuse
to
me,
speak?
Mr Mayor, can I just interrupt for a minute? I've got an issue that's cropped up. I have to leave, but I'll try and get back.
Do you require an adjournment? We can call an adjournment.
No, I've got to go. I've got to go somewhere.
All right, we'll maybe just call a...
I'll try and get back as fast as I can.
We'll call a 2-minute adjournment just to double check everything's all right. So we'll call a 2-minute adjournment, returning 7:21. Thank you. Welcome back to the council meeting. We are on item 9.2 MV/151/2024 at 4 Eddy Street, Moonee Ponds. Councillor Sypek has advised due to personal and caring responsibilities, he's had to step out of the council meeting for now. Councillor O'Neill, I believe you had the call. Would you like to speak?
Thanks, Mayor. I was initially a bit on the fence when I saw this one come through, particularly with the no provision for car parking. But given that it is affordable housing and 100% of it is going to be affordable housing, and we certainly need more variation of housing in Moonee Valley, the parking, given the location, as my colleague Councillor Hodgson mentioned before, in terms of its close proximity to train, tram, bus, supermarket is really close. I guess the people who will be living in these homes perhaps won't need a vehicle to get to these essential services. I think given its location, as I said, we need some more variation in the affordability of housing, particularly in Moonee Ponds and that surrounding area. And I think given the future growth in Moonee Ponds, these higher density buildings are probably going to be a little bit more prominent. So I will support the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
Look, there's lots not to like about this application. It doesn't look particularly appealing. The rooms are small. We've heard about the car parking, but I think, and I thank Councillor Hodgson for putting all of the work in to see if there were any modifications that might be able to be made to improve the design or the arrangement of the rooms. I think I'm probably prepared to give this application a go to see how the affordable housing element works within I guess, the parameters that we've created in MPAC that do allow for this sort of development. But I think it's one of the, I think it's a test case that we need to keep a close eye on, and just, if it does provide much needed housing, that's great, but I think our officers do need to keep a close eye on it.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That is Councillor Bedio, Councillor Hodgson, Councillor Isa, Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Sharp. All those against? Councillor Adams and Councillor Tyson. I declare that carried. We now move on to item 9.3, adoption of local area traffic management plan, Newmarket Precinct. And the officer's recommendation is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move an alternative motion.
Yes, what is that?
That reads that Council resolves to A, note the traffic and parking management feedback raised in the Newmarket Local Area Traffic Management (LATM) in brackets precinct by the local community, and then in brackets attachments 2 and 5 respectively. B, adopt the final traffic management plan for the Newmarket precinct for implementation in brackets attachment 3. C, conduct further community consultation with impacted residents on the parking management plan in brackets attachment 6, specifically regarding 1, those items which have been amended since the draft parking management plan in brackets attachment 4 was distributed. 2, Victoria Street, noting the pressures on residential parking resulting from local construction and changes to car parking availability for residents of the Flemington Housing Estate, and report back to Council. The and report back to Council should be beneath 1 and 2.
We've got that. Continue on. Yep.
D, proceed with the recommended parking changes to Clarence Street ahead of the spring events season. E, request a report back to Council by May 2025 that provides advice to Council on 1, further traffic measures to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists, including potential 30 kilometre per hour zones, 20 kilometre per hour shared zones in Flemington, reduced speeds on Ascot Vale Road south of Maribyrnong Road, and cycling connections such as between Queen's Avenue and Middle Street, Ascot Vale. 2, increase to 15 the daily parking permits included in the temporary parking permit packs available particularly for people living within the event area surrounding the Royal Melbourne Showgrounds and Flemington Racecourse. And 3, the management of commuter parking. F, refer the costs associated, or F and G as officers rec.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Isa, I'll give you a moment when you're ready. Just, if you need to take a gulp of water after the lengthy motion.
I'll just go straight in. Thanks, Mayor. So this was deferred a couple of weeks ago to try to see what we could get right ahead of caretaker kicking in next week. And I think, so I've tried to progress the bits that there's less controversy over, but hold back for some further consultation those elements that didn't quite, to my mind, address the community feedback that was received both during the LATM, the Local Area Traffic Management Plan process, and also afterwards. So when the agenda was distributed online, I received some further feedback from people particularly concerned with cycling safety and pedestrian safety in Flemington. So what this motion has tried to do is progress the elements that, because there's some funding in the budget, that there's some support for, and ask for some further work on some other elements. So some of the things that we'll be progressing are locals will understand the U-turns outside Newmarket train station drive people mad, and there's going to be a traffic measure to deal with that. Car parking at the car spots as you turn into Wellington Street from Racecourse Road. There's a couple of car spots there that really narrow the traffic and create some safety issues, particularly for pedestrians trying to cross the road. So small things like that are going to be progressed and hopefully make some safety changes in Flemington. It's called the Newmarket Local Traffic Area Management Plan, but it's essentially or the entirety of Flemington with some of Ascot Vale. The Traffic Management Plan had a range of feedback, particularly around sort of Farnham Street, Waltham Street and Victoria Street, where the proposals I felt didn't necessarily address what the concerns that had been raised by residents. And particularly in Victoria Street, we've seen a real change to the demand there with the big build that's gone on, a lot of construction in the area, and some changes to the car parking permits that are available to people living on the Flemington housing estate has changed since the surveys were conducted in March, the pressure points there. So some additional work on that I think is justified. The other really interesting thing that's come up is that a number of residents have independently raised with me the notion of a trial 30 kilometre per hour traffic speed across what we call Flemington Hill in to locals in Flemington. It does potentially offer a really good precinct to trial 30 kilometres per hour in Moonee Valley. We've seen other municipalities go forward and try those reduced speeds, and those who've represented this as a really positive contribution to the streets talk about the safety that can come from that extra 10 kilometres, so moving down from 40 to 30, and the safety that can provide for people. So the motion asks for a report back to Council by May next year, stepping out for Council what might be involved in progressing a 30 kilometre per hour zone in Flemington. Someone else also raised with me that a couple of people actually raised with me that the number of events that are now occurring at the showgrounds and racecourse have really meant that the packs of 10 temporary they're not visitor, apologise, they're temporary parking permits, which is quite the tongue twister. And they come in packs of 10 and people can only buy 10 per quarter, which means that for the spring carnival, unless you hoard them over the different quarters, you don't have enough to deal with the events season. And the suggestion is potentially just increasing it to 15 might enable people to deal with that particular situation. But again, just asking for a report back from officers to see how that might improve the situation. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't have anything to add in terms of the detail that Councillor Isa has been able to fit into her speaking time there. The LATMs are really a big piece of work, and we need to roll out LATMs across our municipality, which means it's a really long process, and it's unlikely that we will get back around to Newmarket again for a long time. So it is really worth spending the time to get this one right. So I'm fully supportive of this. We need to make sure not only that it responds to the current feedback, but that it's also, imagining and striking that balance for Flemington, which is an area that, we consider may increase. It's already high density. We already have a lot of issues of residents struggling to find parking and some congestion issues. It's possible that will, only get worse as housing statements and increased density and challenges continue to face our residents, as well as wanting to make sure that, particularly where there's proximity to the city and other services, we want to be encouraging active transport, and we want to make sure that we're striking the balance of road users and making sure that everyone that uses our roads can do so safely. So thanks to Councillor Isa and to the officers for taking just a slightly closer look at some of these and some of the feedback that's been provided, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Bedio.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Look, I'll be brief. I just wanted to thank Councillor Isa for her diligent work in putting this together. There's some really, I think, important additions to the LATM. In particular, the 30-kilometre trial, I think, is something I'm very much looking forward to getting the results from, or the council officer report back on. I note that City of Yarra has implemented quite a number of 30-kilometre roads, and it's been quite a success. So looking forward to hearing back on that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.4 is Nidri Keel Road and Essendon North Activity Centre Program submission to the VPA. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. You mentioned I can be fiery. This is probably one of the things that I get fired up about. So thank you for allowing me to move this motion. And from the outset, I'd like to thank our officers for their work on this report, which has been done at a very quick pace because we've only received the information a week or so ago, and we have this report in front of us tonight. This is a very comprehensive submission that we're putting forward with our views on the proposal for the activity centre programs of Nidri, Keeler Road and North Essendon. Both of those activity centres have been earmarked in the government's housing strategy as being able to cope with more intense development. Personally, I have a lot of issues with how it has come about, and I'm pleased to see that majority of my issues actually have been have come through in this report. So hence I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation. There's a couple of things to note here that I'm just reading off our actual submission. So overall, the draft activity centre plans are not supported for the following reasons. The Victorian Government's process of consultation has significantly lacked procedural fairness. There has been insufficient stakeholder consultation and a lack of meaningful community engagement in the preparation of the draft activity centre plans. The information provided to Council and the community is deficient. It does not include a thorough analysis of the centres. It fails to provide a comprehensive policy direction for the catchment areas, and it does not detail the planning controls to achieve the outcomes sought by the activity centre plans. This is likely a result of the unprecedented planning process and rapid pace at which these activity centre plans have been prepared. The plans are not provided with the level of strategic justification required for consultation and are missing the vital supporting documents to support the proposed changes, including planning scheme amendment, technical background reports, and any documentation outlining the mechanisms and costs for infrastructure provision to realise the vision of these plans. Council has significant reservations regarding the potential rollout of other activity centres based on this pilot program. The Nidri, Keilor Road and North Essendon activity centres and residential catchment areas encompass approximately 1/3 of the municipality. The Victorian Government must commit to a fully transparent planning scheme amendment process undertaken in accordance with sections 17, 18 and 19 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, inclusive of an independent panel process to review community feedback and ensure clear and effective planning outcomes. We request that no new planning controls be introduced until such time as issues Council has raised have been fully discussed and resolved. We request that the Activity Centre program be postponed until the release of the new plan for Victoria to enable principles set by the overarching statewide policy to be embedded in the program. Additional council, community and stakeholder consultation should be undertaken that includes clear planning controls, the full suite of supporting information and technical reports, and a commitment to provide more information to people affected by the proposed changes. We must retain the existing neighbourhood character overlays and corresponding design and development overlays in the absence of an appropriate policy tool or requirements to translate across the important character features. We must also recognise that a large swathe of residential catchment area includes restrictive covenants such as 173 agreements and the Mar Lodge estate, and these covenants and restrictions need to be continued. The Victorian Government must prepare an access strategy and undertake a holistic review of the transport system for the centres that considers the current review of the Keilor Road, Mount Alexander Road and Glass Street, Fletcher Street intersections, including Matthews Avenue intersection and the wider movement across the network. A fair process has not been conducted in the preparation of policy and development controls that will affect approximately 1/3 of our municipality. The process to date has been rushed and has lacked transparency. So we request that the Victorian Government commit to a fully transparent planning scheme amendment process undertaken in accordance with sections 17, 18 and 19 of the Planning and Environment Act, inclusive of an independent panel process to review community feedback and ensure clear and effective planning outcomes. And we request that no new planning controls be introduced until such time as the issues Council has raised has been fully discussed and resolved. Additional Council, community and stakeholder consultation must be undertaken that includes clear planning controls, the full suite of supporting information and technical reports, and a commitment to educate everyone affected by the proposed changes. We've also got the proposal in front of us of deemed to comply pathway for the activity centres, and we cannot support that without first understanding the nature and extent of the proposed new planning controls. As the clarity of the controls is extremely limited, there is no ability for Council and or the public to meaningfully respond to this pathway. The information provided to Council and the community about the catchment areas of 800 metres surrounding the activity centres is insufficient and fails to provide a comprehensive policy direction. The plans provide for denser neighbourhoods from the activity centres with...
1 minute extension, Councillor Sharp.
Sorry, that went quick. With 3 to 6 storey building heights expected. However, no details are provided as to how these taller building heights will be achieved through either rezoning, new planning controls or a combination of both. Neighbourhood character, as I mentioned earlier, has to be retained. Our single dwelling covenants and section 173 agreements have to be retained. people in our community are going to be our residents are going to be hugely affected by this proposal, and there is pretty much no detail. However, they're going to be affected substantially. So I implore everybody to have a look at this report, this submission that we're putting forward, and again I thank the officers. And I hope everybody gets involved in this process, because we really need to hear from everybody in our municipality, because the government needs to hear your thoughts. It can't be just council, it has to come from the residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Sharp, for your very detailed description there. I think the issue with this by the Victorian Government is the whole process is just really rushed, and this is a really strong submission that our officers have put together in a very short amount of time, so well done to them. The timing of this is also pretty poor, given that this is the last council meeting and we enter caretaker mode. So whether that's been done intentionally or not remains to be seen. But I think the problem is that the pilot program the government is suggesting for housing, there are 10 activity centres. Moonee Valley happens to be the lucky one that has 2 of the 10. And the suggestion is they want to add over 10,000 new homes in Essendon and Niddrie. Where? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, there's some old car yards along Keilor Road that are disused, but the actual report is talking about heading into residential streets and allowing up to 6 stories in our streets off the main roads there, which is really concerning. With the addition of more dwellings comes more people, and our infrastructure in Moonee Valley would just not cope, because we're a landlocked municipality. Where are the schools? Where are the sporting grounds? Where's the public transport? How are the roads going to cope with traffic and congestion? So our submission to the VPA is really strong, highlighting a lot of the concerns that we have in Moonee Valley. So yeah, as Councillor Sharp said, really encourage people to jump online and also submit their feedback, so that the Victorian Government can understand, whilst sure we need to build more homes for people as the population grows, we actually need to do that sensibly, and council needs to have a seat at the table, because there is some suggestion here that the Victorian Government may completely wipe planning decisions from council, which means we can't effectively represent the concerns of our residents with future development. So there just needs to be some more guidance and transparency around what the government is actually suggesting. So thanks to the team again for the submission.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I fully support Council's strong submission to the Victorian Planning Authority. I'm actually taken aback, not only by the lack of information provided by the state government to council, but to our community who this directly impacts. The lack of genuine and meaningful consultation with residents is extremely disappointing. The targets set by the state government for Moonee Valley are ambitious, and it's clear that through the very little public information available that this hasn't been thought through in a transparent and thorough way. We must protect the unique characteristics and neighbourhood characters of Moonee Valley that we all value and love. We must limit overdevelopment in our residential areas in Moonee Valley. The 800-metre catchment of residential land that's been flagged for growth is really concerning for those neighbourhoods, and I think the submission our city planners have prepared addresses the impacts and issues really well. We've experienced enormous housing growth in recent years, and that's with existing planning controls, covenants and overlays. The purpose of these controls is to protect our streetscapes, residential amenity and heritage. The impact of developments on livability in our suburbs, our neighbourhoods, services, facilities and infrastructure cannot be underestimated or overlooked. We must not support the loosening of our existing planning controls. We're a landlocked municipality and we are barely coping with the increase in traffic, pressures on public transport and loss of amenity as it is. Like my colleagues, I urge residents to please give feedback by Sunday the 29th of September. The government not only needs to hear from council but directly from you, the residents impacted. Please don't miss your chance to have a say. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson, then Councillor Biddy.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you to my colleagues. Look, this one, I'm taken aback but also reasonably alarmed. I think, whether you're a Yimby or a NIMBY, this is universally, this submission needs to be able to provide the information and the, technical background and the documents required for us to understand how, if you're developing this kind of density, how are you going to plan for that? What's the strategy? How are you going to support that growth in density of housing? And how are you going to do it in a way that is going to support both the existing and new residents in the area? So I think, what alarms me is the timing as well. Where we know from the recent Operation Sandon that there's questions around councils being able to retain authority to make planning decisions. So this is all happening at a time where council's navigating how we can provide input into, changes in our local neighbourhoods. Moonee Valley was chosen to be in the pilot program for this in 2 activity centres, so the impact on us is really significant. If this is the way that the pilot is going to run and the submission speaks to this, the concern that we have is, what happens then to the next activity centres. So, my most generous reading of this draft would be that it's a pretty early draft and that they are very open to feedback, and I do hope that that's the case, and our officers have really skillfully and in very short amount of time put a lot of points that hopefully will give a lot of food for thought to the Victorian Planning Authority. I guess, in that generous interpretation, we will see council's views taken on, but I echo my colleagues' sentiments that, this is an open public opportunity for feedback, and I hope everyone does take that opportunity. Just the lack of the technical background and reports to support it, the idea that the draft proposes to remove the design and development overlays, which years and years of work and technical background documents and evidence-based and community consultation went into, and with the stroke of a pen, those could be removed with question mark to replace them. So I fully support this submission, which I note will become the formal advocacy position of council post-endorsement.
Extension.
That's okay, Mayor. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you. Look, I'll concur with my colleagues and in particular Councillor Hodgson and state that I'm also quite alarmed. And I'm not going to repeat what's been said around the table here, but I want to call to everyone's attention my concern in relation to the catchment areas in particular. So whilst I have some empathy towards higher density development on main roads and arterials, I'm very much concerned with the proposals for the high density development in the catchment area, which is in our suburban hinterland, where there's proposals in the general residential zone where there's current limits of up to 3 stories for development, that in certain instances the state government is looking to override that and allow up to 6 stories of development. Now that is a significant change from the status quo, and essentially is it transforms the suburb completely. And I just want to reiterate what my colleagues have said around the table, that your feedback is important. If you care about the neighbourhood character of these areas, please get in touch with the state government. Please get your feedback in. Look, I'll just concur that I'm alarmed, and it's quite shocking.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Councillor Arza, you're the only councillor that hasn't spoke. Would you like to?
We can't have that. So say something. Thank you. I think that one of the things that we've done here is been really good at our planning in MPAC, which has made, perhaps caught the attention of some state government planners, and unfortunately that there's been an assumption that that really good planning that's gone on at MPAC might be able to be applied to other areas. But I think all of us around the table are in unison in saying that we understand our communities in those areas, and they are vastly different to MPAC, and you can't pick up MPAC and put it in another part of Moonee, or these particular parts of Moonee Valley. I think the other thing that is really unfortunate about this is that where I am in Moonee Valley, which is Flemington, 20 minutes from the city, we are inner urban, and we've got multiple 20-storey plus buildings that are part of the landscape. Some of them are quite monolithic, actually, but they're part of that urban density at that end of town. And if we are, look, I think around the table also, none of us are saying that we don't want to contribute as best we can to the uplift in housing that we need in Victoria, and making sure, and Eddie Street application tonight was case in point on that. We don't want to say no to applications that are providing housing where it's needed. But that's not what these particular plans are doing. They're not necessarily providing that density of housing where it potentially is best located in our neck of the woods. So I think our submission is part of the effective advocacy that we need to be doing on this, and we do need to be, we can't just be yelling and loud and protesting vociferously on this. We need to actually be quite strategic and thoughtful in our advocacy, and I think that's what this submission does.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. As there's been several points, different points around the chamber raised, Councillor Sharp, did you want to write a reply to close out debate? No? No. Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.5 is award of contract for trade services, parentheses, negotiation number 100055. The officer's recommendation, councillors, is shown on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Bedio. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. This kicks off a series of contracts to be awarded tonight, so we'll keep them short because there's a few to get through. This particular one is awarding contracts to a panel of 17 different suppliers over the course of the next 3 years, including trades such as building repairs, electrical, locksmiths, plumbing, heating and air conditioning. And that will help facilitate ongoing maintenance within our buildings, parks and streets.
Thank you. Councillor Bedio. Nothing more to add. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.6 is award of panel contract for sports field construction, sports field lighting installation and cricket net construction, and Doyle Street Reserve sports ground upgrade. Parentheses, negotiation number 100049. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp. Thank you. Councillor Hodgson.
Thanks, Mayor. Another contract award, and this one's a slightly new approach for council. As you might see from our capital works delivery report later in the agenda, sometimes our capital works, we've had conversations about how to put council in the best position to deliver our full capital works program, and this is one approach that we're trying where we can bundle up a few like projects to deliver through a panel. So happy to support this one. It's going to give us a few sports ground reconstructions, including starting with Doyle Street, and I hope that this new approach reaps the benefits we hope it will.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to support the officer's recommendation and this motion. Pleased to see another sports field is getting upgraded. This time it's Doyle Street, and we're also looking at lights. Sorry, I'm trying to find the report, but happy with the report and the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.7 is award of contract for the tree planting, brackets negotiation number 100060. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Bedio. Councillor O'Neill.
Who doesn't love trees? This is a contract for tree planting. So over the next 3 years for suppliers to help supply plant some trees around the municipality. Part of our MV 2040 strategy includes a target of 30% tree canopy cover. So we will need people to put the trees in the ground in order to reach that target. So happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Bedio.
Very well said by Councillor O'Neill. Not much to add.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Item 9.6 is award of contract for Boeing Reserve Swale and Rain Garden, negotiation number 100050. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. And do I have a motion? Councillor Sharp.
Sorry. Yes, move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bedio was first. Councillor Sharp.
Yep, sorry, just checking. This program has been earmarked for quite a number of years, so happy to see this moving forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.9 is award of extension of contract FOL/18/902 for the tree maintenance services. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Oh, Councillor Isa was first. What's your motion?
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Isa.
I think that a very high percentage of requests that come to councillors are around tree maintenance. So I think that this particular contract is one that we're all keen to see delivered really well. So I'm happy to move this one. But I don't need to speak to it at great length.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Hodgson.
I just want to take the opportunity. We do have a really great tree maintenance program, but we know in the summer months that our trees need a little bit of extra love. So if you do have a street tree that looks like it's having a bit of trouble, please just chuck a bit of water on it for us.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 9.10, Capital Works Performance Report, end of financial year 2023/24. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Bedio. Councillor Hodgson.
This report rounds out our financial year capital works program, and it's another huge one delivered. We did approve some carry forwards in the budget, but this provides the final carry forward amount and approval of carry forward of, I'm really bad at reading out numbers, so I won't even attempt it, but in the order of $11 million. So as I mentioned earlier, we have faced some challenges in the current climate with construction prices and things with delivering our full scope of capital works, but the team does an incredible job of trying to mitigate those risk factors and trial new and innovative ways of delivering for our community. So that's all detailed in the report, and I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Bedio.
Not much further to add, Mayor, other than to thank officers for their ongoing hard work in our Capital Works program, and it's something I'm really proud of over the last 4 years and proud of our officers is how well our capital works has performed over those last 4 years, and how they've improved. So a big thank you to officers.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak? Put it to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Item 9.11, Annual Financial Report 2023/24. Do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll move the officer's recommendation, please.
Thank you. A seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. The 23/24 Annual Financial Report has been prepared in accordance with relevant legislation and the Australian Accounting Standards by Council's Finance Department in consultation with the Victorian Auditor General's Office. The Audit and Risk Committee reviewed the Annual Financial Report at our meeting held on Monday, the 2nd of September 2024. To provide Council with confidence that all issues have been resolved and the Annual Financial Report has been prepared in accordance with good governance principles, a letter of representation has been provided from the CEO and CFO to Council. The account statements can be summarised as follows. Starting with the income statement for the year ended 30 June 2024, Council reported an actual operating surplus of $8.63 million, which compares to a budgeted operating surplus of $6.91 million. The favourable variance of $1.72 million is due to an increase in revenue in operating grants of $1.23 million, rates and charges of $1.63 million, statutory fees and fines of $1.77 million, other income of $3.7 million and user fees of $1.61 million. Offsetting these revenue items was an increase in expenses in employee costs of $1.66 million and depreciation of $6.43 million. With regards to the balance sheet, Council continues to be in a strong financial position, with the balance sheet showing a satisfactory level of cash assets and a positive working capital ratio. The working capital ratio assesses Council's ability to meet current commitments and is calculated by measuring Council's current assets against current liabilities. Council's ratio of 1.51 to 1 is an indicator of Council's strong financial position and means that Council has $1.51 of current assets for each $1 of current liabilities. Council's total equity as at the 30th of June 2024 was $3.17 billion, a $148.32 million increase on 22/23. The increase was predominantly due to the increase in the value of property, infrastructure, plant and equipment by $151.96 million. Council's cash for the year ended 30 June 2024 was $57.94 million, represented by cash and cash equivalents of $25.94 million and other current financial assets of $32 million. Other financial assets represent funds on deposit where the investment term is greater than 90 days. This represents a decrease in cash holdings from the prior year of $1.87 million. Of this amount, $7.94 million is restricted cash to be applied to trust funds and deposits. Capital expenditure for the year ended 30 June 2024 was $47.08 million, which was $4.89 million less than budget. There were a number of external factors that contributed to the actual spend being less than budget, including permit approvals with external authorities, slower poor market interest in council tenders, and an increase in construction material costs. In conclusion, the annual financial report for 23/24 indicates that Council's overall financial position is sound for the financial year ended 30 June 2024. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks, Mayor. Nothing much more to add to that. It's good to see Council is in a healthy financial position, and so congratulations to finance team, the officers and Council themselves for getting Council into that position. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Carried. Item 9.12 is certification of the performance statement and governance and management checklist. Councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Adams.
Thanks, Mayor. This motion seeks to approve and certify the 23/24 performance statement and governance and management checklist and submits the certified performance statement to the Victorian Auditor General's Office for final audit approval. The performance statement is an accountability document setting out results achieved by council against a prescribed set of sustainable capacity, service performance and financial indicators, and is an interesting document to read as it does provide explanatory commentary regarding performance between the current and previous year. The results are published on the state government's website, so Moonee Valley residents and ratepayers can compare the performance of council to other similar councils on that site. Many of the results recorded by council in 23-24 were comparable to the previous financial year. One of the standout variations for me that we can be proud of is the improvement in the time taken to assess planning applications, something our planning department has worked hard internally for a number of years to streamline, simplify processes. So well done. Both the performance statement and governance and management checklist must be included in the annual report in order to meet legislative obligations and have been received, noted and approved in principle by the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on Monday, the 2nd of September 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, 4 years and I can't figure out how to turn my mic on. I was also going to mention those standout variations that are in the report, and I think that they really speak to the priorities of this council term. The first one that is called out in the report is the participation in maternal child health services by Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander children, which increased by nearly 5%. And we passed the Reconciliation Action Plan, Barrington, I'm going to get it wrong because I've got another one in my mind, but shoulder to shoulder together. And we can see the outputs and the outcomes in that with that turnaround and variation. The planning applications is something that the whole council and officers have worked hard on. I know through some strong advocacy from Councillor Bedio as well, I think originally a NOM. And you know, that piece of work in bringing down the time taken to assess and just generally the planning outcomes for our community, you know, we've touched on that for many people their first interaction with council might be putting in a planning application, and so to offer people a better experience is priceless. The last variation that's called out is the increase in proportion of waste diverted from landfill, and that's attributed to the introduction of our Universal Food Organic Garden Organic Service. There we go, I just learnt what FOGO means. And that has been a huge program and rollout, and something that we're all really proud of. You can look up the reel that I'm sure is still online of us all speaking to that. So there are three things that are to be really commended for this council term, and I'm glad to see that already we're seeing the results of that hard work in these performance measures.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Isa.
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Adams and Councillor Hodgson and is it Councillor Sypek at the moment on audit and risk for being our audit and risk reps. There's a lot of work in audit and risk in being on top of all of the hundreds of pages of documents, and just thank the councillors who have served on that committee over the council term. And also I'm going to sneak in this little opportunity to thank Councillor Hodgson especially for the diligence and time that she has always put in to things like audit and risk, which are the very unsexy parts of council work, and has always turned up and done it very comprehensively. And whoever is around the table, you will just be so missed.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Item 9.13, Governance Report, Quarter 3, 2024. The officer's recommendation is on the screen. Do I have a motion? Councillor Isa.
I'd just like to move Part A of the officer's recommendation. Thanks, Mayor.
Part B. This amendment hasn't been flagged. Is every councillor aware of what's been moved? Yes. Part B was removed from the officer's recommendation. Councillor Sharp, can you see that, or did you need me to read it out? Yep, thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Bedio. Councillor Isa.
Thanks. Look, Part B revoked a resolution to report on correspondence and notices of motion, and I think that I feel more comfortable leaving that up to a new council to decide whether or not they want to receive those reports or not. I think it's a bit premature, or I don't think it's helpful for us to stop that practice at our last meeting here, but leave that up to a new council to decide whether or not they want to receive those reports.
Thank you. Councillor Bedio.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you. Look, I completely agree with Councillor Isa. It's something that I actually noticed when reading the reports earlier. I think whilst we have significantly reduced the number of noms, I think there is still a place for them in certain instances. And I think that report quarterly is useful. And I think that's something that we should maintain, or at least let the new council make a decision on as to whether they want to keep it or not.
Thank you, Councillor Bedio. Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimously carried. Item 9.14, endorsement of public memorial application for Kathy.
Excuse me, Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict if I may. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. That was
I'd like to declare a general conflict of interest in item 9.14 because the person involved was a close friend of mine.
Thank you, Councillor Isa. We'll give you a moment to leave the room. All right, councillors, the officer's recommendation is on the screen. Just a reminder that we have 6 councillors in the room at the moment. Is there a motion? Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Sharp got there first. Councillor Hodgson.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I'm really happy to move and support this motion for a public memorial to be placed in the new memorial plaque to be placed in the new Flemington Pocket Park for Kathy Bouquet, who was an extraordinary member of our Flemington community. Her passing last year is still keenly felt by the community, and it's a wonderful thing that we have the opportunity with the opening of the new Flemington Pocket Park later this week, I believe, to honour Kathy's memory with a memorial plaque. I want to warmly thank Stephen, Kathy's husband, who submitted this application, and for his words in there to describe Kathy's impact on the community, which, you know, was really above and beyond, and her contributions, as I said, are still remembered fondly, and it's completely appropriate to have her memorialised in this park in particular. As the application states, Kathy not only was a important member of the Farnham Street community and the programs of delivery there, but she was also really actively involved in the work to stop a high development of that pocket park site, which eventually led to council acquisition of the site and now this park being opened. If I may, I'm just going to read the words of the Farnham Street annual report about Kathy and the impact that she's had. Everyone at Farnham Street is devastated by the very sad passing of our much-loved special needs cooking teacher, Kathy Bouquet. Kathy was a kind, caring and a compassionate person, and her tragic death from cancer has deeply affected us. She was an essential part of our staff team and was adored by all her students. Kathy started working at Farnham Street in 2014. I met her one day in the adjacent park when she asked me if we had a book group. I didn't at that time, but I said I would love to be involved. Kathy had a number of friends from Flemington Primary School who were interested, so we started one up fairly quickly. It just so happened that we needed a special education teacher for one of our cooking and nutrition classes, and Kathy had a master's in special education. She had worked in this area in the UK for a number of years. The one cooking class turned into two, and Kathy proved to be a great hit with all her students. Kathy and our wonderful cooking teacher, Donald Wake, worked brilliantly together to come up with interesting, tasty and simple recipes for their students to try at home. This helped to increase their independent living skills in a socially inclusive environment and ensured that they felt welcomed and accepted. We will never forget Kathy and the enormous contribution she made to our Farnham Street family. We'll miss her wonderful smile, quirky sense of humour and the delicious food she cooked with her students. I'm glad that tonight we can make sure that no one in Flemington forgets Kathy by making sure that we can put a memorial plaque in the park in her honour.
Thank you, Councillor Hodgson. Councillor Sharp.
Just happy to support this memorial.
Yeah,
thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak? If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, and that's unanimous. And that's carried, and I'll ask if we can get Councillor Isa back in the room. The next item on the agenda is notices of motion. However, we have none listed on the agenda tonight. Item 12 is confidential reports, and we have 3 listed on the agenda tonight. So can I please have a mover and seconder that Council resolves to close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 to discuss the following matters as they are considered confidential under the terms of 3.1. 12.16 Napier Crescent, Essendon, construction of 6 dwellings contains confidential information relating to E, legal privileged information, being information to which legal professional privilege or client legal privilege applies as the item relates to a confidential VCAT compulsory conference hearing. 12.2 Sports and recreation contract matter contains confidential information relating to G, private commercial information, being information provided by a business, commercial or financial undertaking that 2, if released, would unreasonably expose the business, commercial or financial undertaking to disadvantage as it contains confidential commercial information. And 12.3 Appointment of Audit and Risk Committee, independent member and chairperson, and noting minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. Contains confidential information relating to B, security information, being information that if released is likely to endanger the security of council property or the safety of any person, and F, personal information, being information that which if released would result in the unreasonable disclosure of information about any person or their personal affairs as it contains personal information of a committee member. Moved Councillor Bedio, seconded Councillor Hodgson. All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. This is where we say good night to the members of the public in the gallery and those watching at home. We do have one more council meeting on the 23rd of September to table our annual report. However, that will be during our caretaker period for council, so we won't be particularly talking too much on that, and it will be a quick meeting. So this really is the last meeting of council. So I'd like to thank all the councillors around the room. I'd like to thank those in the gallery and those watching at home, all of our diligent listeners, possibly plural, who have watched at home over the years. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure there are many candidates for the upcoming council election watching as well. I'd like to wish you all the best, as well as those around the room who are recontesting the election, and I hope that you will bring a spirit of cooperation and collaboration as councillors here tonight have done in your work and campaigning. So thank you for joining us, and I close the meeting to the public at 8:23.